Hi there, Ornery Mule Racing fans. This is Steve Streaker, and I serve as an assistant to the coaches here at Ornery Mule Racing, and welcome to our Zoom meet with Coach Val Thompson. Coach Val is going to share with us today things we can do outside of running to make ourselves better runners, including strength work, stretching, warming up before a run, and meditation and mindset. So she'll field questions from our athletes here today, and we'll have a little input from some of our guest coaches today, including Coach Ryan Haywood and Coach Loretta Tobolski-Horn. And of course, we have Michele Hartwig coming at us from our Ornery Mule Racing Trailhead in Crystal Lake, Illinois. With no further ado, we welcome Coach Val Thompson.
Well, first off, thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you everybody for signing on. I know it's a beautiful day in the Midwest and you might want to be outdoors, but thank you for spending some time with me. I'm not the best public speaker and I tend to get a little emotional about running, so I'll have to excuse myself. But like maybe some of you, I have not always been a runner. In fact, I despised running, so it's pretty ironic that I love running now. I remember my first 2 mile, my first 5 mile, my first 10-mile run, and now it has gone into 100 miles. And something happens when you start getting into those distances where you don't even think that that's crazy. But I do have a wonderful family that supports me in all of my craziness. I'll let you see them right here. Here they are. I have my husband in the Iowa shirt. He's my biggest shenanigan man. Without him, I couldn't do nearly what I do. He's always there to really be my crew. He's my one and only crew man. And then the next tall figure next to me is Tanner. She's an Iowa student, and she's a nursing student in Iowa, and she's 22. And me, and then my oldest daughter, Tristan, who'll be 25 this month. I love this picture, and this kind of goes along with what we'll be talking about today, because these two girls had trained for a half marathon, and this was the year that Disney canceled the half marathon. So they were forced with a decision to either train for the half marathon, and Disney had given them an option of either scheduling for another year or going into the marathon. And so we were in our hotel room discussing what would be the possibilities to do. And all of a sudden, Tanner, my youngest, says, okay, I registered for the full marathon. And we were all like, oh, well, you did what? And she's like, well, how hard is that really going to be? And I'm like, oh, it'll be okay. So, I kind of tried to prep them about going through all the emotions of running and how you'll experiencing all of them, whether it will be, the huge joy or the pain and the crying and the agony, and how they all just cycle through. And by the end of our marathon, we finished together, which was incredible. It'll be an experience I'll treasure forever. Yeah. So anyway, I told you I get a little emotional when I talk about running.
Well, you're in a good crowd for that.
Yeah,
so,
well, thank you. So
and what a beautiful family you have.
Oh, well, thank you. So anyway, I got into running. I was just finishing nursing school, and I had put on a few pounds and wasn't really exactly thrilled with how I felt that way. And I decided I would do something that I could manage, not do something crazy. It had to be manageable. So I started walking.
What?
And then after that, I had a neighbor that would take the kids with me, and she was training for the Chicago Marathon. And I used to always tease her, like, how ridiculous it sounded she would be running 10 miles. I'm like, that sounds ridiculous. You're going to go run 10 miles. And now I think 100 miles doesn't sound out of the ordinary. So it's kind of funny how that progressed. I've done many marathons, probably over 23 half marathons, couple hennepins, and some longer 24-hour runs.
Which one was your favorite out of those?
I like them all. Each one has had their, unique characteristic that I'm pretty happy with. I enjoy the road running and I enjoy trail running just as much. They bring different aspects into my life. And, after each race, I'm noted for saying, that was fun, I can't wait to do it again. Or my famous last words were, "That was a nice course." So it's, no matter what the challenge is, I think afterwards, if you just kind of reflect on that, it was not as bad as you really thought it was when you were running. So,
yeah, well, your spirit certainly shines through. I know why Michele really is attracted to you as a coach. And so you can tell you're a real positive person. If you can say after a big race that, hey, that was great, that must be it. So can you tell us a little bit about your strength background and that history?
Oh, sure. So I had, along with feeling after nursing school and doing new things as becoming more aware of health and wellness, I kind of got tricked into, I guess I'll say, going into competitive bodybuilding. So I did that for a couple of years and took a break from running at that point and went more into that avenue. I still enjoy strength training through this day, although I don't compete any longer. But I think part of my strength activities have helped me be a better runner, because when you're running, you're not always trying to move. You're not only trying to move in a forward motion, but your body's working hard to maintain balance, and it's absorbing quite a bit of shock with that running movement. So I think keeping your body strong in other aspects besides running is definitely beneficial. So I took a little bit of a break. I competed for a couple of years. I did have a pro card, so I was happy and pretty proud of that. And like running and it took a lot of self-discipline to get to that point too. So I think that translated well into the endurance running that I do now.
Yeah, great. Now, maybe this is a good transition for you to share a little bit of your philosophy about strength. And, kind of our focus today is to get in on stuff we can do outside of running to become a better runner. And this seems kind of like your area of expertise. So what do you do for strength to strengthen you as a runner?
I do a lot of things, but I chose these topics because these are things that we often neglect as runners. We always just want to kind of get out there and run, but some of the things that we do behind the scenes will strengthen or make us better runners. And I do think strength training is one of them. I just want to be clear, I'm not recommending or prescribing any of these treatments for anybody, because I don't know your strengths or in your exercise routine right now. But these are just some things that you don't have to have a gym for. You don't have to be using weights. You can do things with body weight as well. So I kind of wanted to touch on some of those exercises. The things that I like to do now are things that you can do with or without weights, really. So for my, I do some work on my lower body, but I don't tend to hover there, because running gives me a lot of that lower body exercise. I think as runners, we're kind of maybe a little ill-balanced in the core and then our upper body, because believe it or not, a lot of your running form and your ability to kind of keep moving forward will come from that upper body motion and strength. And especially when you kind of get tired too, is that that upper body kind of falls apart, and then that transfers to your lower body as well. I do find, like when I'm running, that if I correct starting with my head and focus down to my feet, it's many of the corrections that I make in my upper body that fix my lower body form and function. So I think I'll just kind of tell you, squats. I was going to make a video, but I'm not I am technically challenged. So I know you probably all know what squats are. And if you want a little more information on that, you can always hit one of us trainers up. I do have a certification in personal training as well. So squats, you could do them with weights or without weights, and there are many variations of squats. The thing that I pay most attention with that is keeping my stomach tight and making sure I'm pressing through my heels when I'm standing up. And when I'm in that full squat position, you don't want the knee to go past your toes. You want to keep that more in line between your forefoot and your ankle. You can also do step ups, and then kind of the same principle with the step ups. You want to make sure you're stepping with that full foot onto that platform and really driving up with that full force of the foot. Don't want to lean into it. You want to really just stand straight up onto a box or a low step. Lunges are great. I have a love-hate with lunges because I am terrible at them. And that just proves I have a disbalance with my lower extremities, which I think all of us are either stronger on one side or the other. Unilateral glute bridges, I think those are great for the glute muscles and your core muscles as well. You could do them with or without weight, and you can also do, you don't have to do unilateral. You can place both feet on the ground with that. And I can't forget to mention the almighty Clam Shells, the favorite of all runners. So those you can do banded or not banded as well. Those will strengthen the hips, and a lot of our strength comes from that core hip area when we're running.
I know I did a little, sorry to interrupt, I did a little coaching soccer in the earlier lifetime, and I remember having some PTs visit my athletes, and that clam exercise was considered, like, if there was one thing they were to do, it was that one. It was like really important with injury prevention, and so that was the one thing I remember taking away from that PT was the importance of that particular strength thing. And I know a couple of our other coaches here would support you with what you're saying with your strength advice. Ryan is really involved in that. Ryan, if you want to chime in and kind of affirm what a lot of things that Val's saying here.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with the lunges, the step ups, the squats, all those, as we, it's just added to our running efficiency, and the stronger we get, the easier it is to run, I think. Also, like, the stronger we get, the quicker we recover when we fatigue our muscles or start, really pushing our those longer runs. We're able to recover faster if we're stronger. So, but yeah, I'm in line with everything she's been saying.
Great.
Thanks, Ryan.
And then we also had a question from Hannah Barney. Hannah, did you want to ask that question? You okay with doing it, or would you rather me just read it off the chat? Okay, she said a signal for me to go ahead and read it. She's asking about injury prevention and recovery differences between heavy strength and running periods in your life.
Okay.
Yeah, so injury prevention, recovery differences between heavy strength and running periods. Am I getting that right, Hannah? Yeah.
I think the experience that I've had with strength training has allowed me to recover a lot more quickly, and it has also prevented many injuries, because I can really count with two fingers the major, we'll just call them forced recoveries instead of injuries. So I've had 2 forced recoveries, which I was actually still able to run through. And that kind of goes back to, I think, Steve, you were mentioning about physical therapy. We have a great facility in the Quad City area that will, for free, they do a runner's assessment to check for any injuries, and then recommend exercises to strengthen or to help correct that imbalance that you might be experiencing. So I do encourage anybody that's having any of those issues to seek out some professional physical therapist advice on that. But back to Hannah's question, I think the strength that I gained through my bodybuilding activities that I did has definitely helped me, especially with some of the imbalances that I've experienced. So recovery, I don't know, I had a pretty intense year last year, and I literally logged over 1,000 miles. I think it was darn near 2,000 miles. And I was able to run through that pretty well. I'll definitely recommend I know this strength is something that we want to do when we think we don't have time to, but some of these exercises you can literally do, like when you're cooking dinner or brushing your teeth, like hip hikes. If you're standing and, you just kind of lift that side up, you could do those while you're standing in line at the grocery store. I mean, people are going to look at you, but they might join in as well. So I don't think it's something you need to carve out a whole lot of time for if you're especially just beginning in the strength training area. Maybe focus on 1 or 2 exercises to do throughout your day. And you can even do some of them after your after your run, like if you want to strengthen some calves, you can do some toe walks, maybe for, a minute of walking on your toes, and then do some heel kicks on your way back. Those are just little minor exercises that really will have a big impact on your running routine. We focus a lot on the lower body, but some upper body things that are important would be plank. That's an awesome stabilizer exercises. Push-ups, you can do those on your knees. You can do those at an incline, or you can do the regular. I just caution that when you do the push-ups to seek out some correct form, because a lot of us want to kind of, sink, but you really want to maintain that broad back. And really think about pushing the floor away from you versus sinking into the floor, if that kind of makes sense. And Supermans are great for low back. Sometimes we don't have the best running form and that low back starts to hurt. This is just one of those exercises that would help strengthen that low back area.
Okay, and Robert has a question. Robert, do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Sure can. First, Val, thank you so much for the great information that you're sharing.
Oh, thank you.
I really appreciate it, and I absolutely appreciate how you your strength training background. For me, when I think about working out and spending time strength training, it all stays up here. I don't actually apply it. So this is a great motivation for me to actually begin doing it. And so, with regard to the time that you would say that you would suggest spending per day or per week versus running, what would you suggest? So, for example, if I'm spending an hour a day on running, how much time do you think I should spend strength training for that day?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's really going to be individual based. And again, you would maybe want to look at, if you're just a beginner with the strength training, you may want to look at doing it on one of your cross training days versus incorporating it with a day that you're running. Because especially if it's something that you have not been doing, your body is going to need some time to recover and repair from that process. So you don't really necessarily want to overload the body in both capacities. And just like with your running training, you didn't start running out, 10 miles a day. You started small, right? You started with maybe a mile. Think of it the same way with strength training. You might start out with body weight exercises first, and then add some light weights to that. So I know a lot of times you want to just jump right into something, but that's a sure way to have it backfire as well. So I would just basically recommend take one of your cross training days or your rest days. And also you need to look at how many days are you running. If you're a person that's running 5 days a week, that's going to be a little bit trickier to kind of incorporate that strength training. But for me, and what I like to do, because I love both. I love strength training and I love running. So I tend to strength train probably at least 4 days a week, and then I run probably 3 or 4. So it just kind of depends on the week. Sometimes I don't feel like running. So, sometimes I really want to just hit the weights, and just kind of that makes me feel better.
I know I infuse, like what your style of trying to infuse the workout sometimes into your day. And Michelle knows this. She spied me doing this sometimes at the trailhead. I use TheraBand, and I do this at my workplace at school too as well. I have it kind of tied off to my desk, and I'll just fit it in, periodically during the day.
Yeah.
That's the way you can kind of manage it. 'Cause like you said, it's kind of tough to find a balance for that. And, I can work and do a few of those things at the same time sometimes. So, Coach Loretta, I don't know if you want to chime in a little bit on this strength topic and some of the stuff that Val's brought up.
Sure. I agree with what's being said too. And I think that it's really important for runners to do different kinds of movements like that, because our body gets used to the exact same movement when we're running. It's always that constant running pattern. And so having some of these other things help to prevent injury. And I also incorporate strength training. I like to do it at the end of a run. That's just because I'm feeling pretty high after I'm done running. And I think that's just like a time that really motivates me to do it. I've been I've also used a lot of CrossFit type workouts and trained athletes in CrossFit endurance, which is kind of, mixing all of that together too, that running and strength training together. So yeah, I think it's great. And I think it's really helpful for injury prevention.
Great. Okay. Anything else, Val, on strength, or would you like to transition into the warm-up stretching part of your presentation?
Yeah, I would like to move on as long as
Okay. Yeah. So obviously all of us get ready for races and ahead of time. So what do you suggest that we do before a run or a race or?
Well, I think, the warm-up is definitely important. We're asking our body to perform at a high level of intensity. And I think if, you might want to start out just being a little kind to yourself and, allowing that body to kind of get the blood flow moving. I know there's discrepancy in many of the studies, whether warm-ups or stretching are detrimental to your performance. I think some of that depends on the type of run you're doing. So sprinting, yes, it may definitely impair, but endurance running, there's not as much evidence indicating that it impairs your performance. And it doesn't need to be a long, drawn-out process. It's just something to kind of wake up those muscles and get them ready to go and do your run. And it's also what we'll get into next is I like it. It's a good time to kind of talk to myself, and especially on those days where you're just like, oh, I don't think I can do this. It's a good way to kind of say, okay, we're gonna just warm up a little bit here. You got this. It's no problem. And so you just kind of start that positive self-talk as you're warming up those muscles and getting ready to go. So I just have a short little routine that I usually do. I start with walking on my toes for maybe 20 steps and then transition to heels. And then I'll do the knee lifts where you rise up on your toe. Not necessarily the running knee lifts, but just a gentle walk with a lift, walk and lift. And then, but not the running butt kicks, but like you're trying to cover up a dog's poop thing. That kick where it's just kind of like coming back up.
I got it now.
Okay, good. And let's see, then some just gentle leg swings. I do some little ankle circles and things. And also, I don't forget about my upper body. There's that, the swimmer circles or just kind of some nice back and forth, and some shoulder rolls, and then you're ready to go. I definitely stick to more of the dynamic stretches before I run versus the static stretches. Like I said, just something nice and gentle. I know sometimes you just want to okay, I'm just going to warm up by starting out slow. Well, good. I'm glad that's part of your warm up as well, but that's your running warm up. So we want to do a pre-warm up to your running warm up.
Great. Any of the other coaches want to jump in on this with stretching and warm up? Coach Ryan?
Yeah. I totally agree with that as far as warming up the muscles, getting them loosened up. As they say, it's not like you don't want to start stretching a cold rubber band. Is that right? Yeah. So you just want to just break it. You kind of want to start loosening up those muscles. And then also I would also add in some striders there just to kind of start getting good mechanics into your warm up as well. And it kind of teaches your leg, start creating that adaptation to your body of okay, this is how we're going to be running. So.
And
Coach Loretta? Yep.
I agree with Ryan, and I think that the strides also are really good to give yourself a chance to really focus on your form, where you might kind of forget about that as you're running, but focus on your form and your leg turnover, and so that we're using good form for preventing injury.
And how about our group? Is there anybody in the group here who has some things they do for warm up that's maybe a little different than what the coaches have mentioned, or something that you recommend before a workout or a run? And you can just chime right in if you'd like.
Hannah has a good question there. Any difference in duration for warm up regarding the temperature or climate? I think definitely there is a difference. So especially in the colder temperatures, your body is a little more stiff or rigid. You want to be a little bit more gentle. You don't want to go into your full out run, and definitely spend a little bit more time with your warm up. Warmer temperatures, I don't want to say, I still think proper stretching and warm up is deemed necessary. And I don't want to negate the fact that you would want to spend any less time on that, but definitely with the colder temperatures, you may require a little bit more to movement to get that body temperature up a little bit.
I know with running in groups, like you were talking about the science behind whether the warm up actually is beneficial or not. It's really tough to have empirical, evidence about that. It's really tough to see if it actually prevents injury or whatever. But I know I've seen that they still value it for a social reason. Like if you're running in a group, that the warm up is good for groups and bonding and stuff before you take off too. So there's a mental side to this too. So, and maybe that could kind of lead us into the third thing today you were going to talk about with mindset, meditation. This is certainly outside of running. What are your thoughts with that?
Love this part. Let me do another screen share. I hope this works.
Yeah, we actually, Coach Annie's not with us today because she's out doing a virtual meditation at another location. So this is valued by a lot of our coaches, not just you. Okay,
do you see it?
We sure do.
Okay, so I think this is so cool. I love this saying, running is a mental sport. And it's something that you need to, just like our warm-ups we were talking about, I think it's something to work on as well, as that mental aspect of it, because your running and your training are only going to be as good as what you're thinking, right? Yeah. So just like your physical training, your mental aspect of running can also be trained. So it's not something that you either have or you don't. It's something that you can work on and improve upon, just like your running skills. I love science, but without digging too deep into the aspects of the brain, we basically have the left side, which is our logical side. It takes care of business and really steers us towards comfort and away from pain. Then we have the other creative side, which is the right side of our brain. It's our source that will problem solve for us and connects us to our hidden talents. So we want to, when we're working with the mental aspect of running, we want to definitely tap into that right side that looks for the creative solution and taps into things that we might not have inside us. So what happens is when we're running, our body starts to sense that stress, and then all of a sudden you'll hear that left side of your brain acting up. It'll start telling you how tired you are, you can't do this, why are you out here, and all those crazy bad things, right? So what we want to do is kind of shut that side of the brain up, put it in the corner, and activate that right side going. Then there's a couple ways you can go ahead and do that. We talked about this before. I think, Loretta, you might have mentioned this somewhere. I read, or I don't know if it was on a podcast or not, but the visualization. Okay. So this visualization can be done either during your run or at any time throughout the day. And really, the quality of your image that you're creating in your brain is more important than the length. So I'd encourage breaking any kind of difficult run into smaller segments and breaking them up versus and with those segments, you want a clear picture, like, okay, I know on this part of the run, I see a tree on the left and I'm feeling this, and make it very descriptive to your brain, because what you're doing is activating that brain, and it's forging the neural pathways in your muscles to kind of go forward in that motion. If you have long general ones, you're not going to necessarily get the full benefit of doing that visualization process. And always after I do some kind of imagery or visualization, I want to make sure that you go ahead and kind of debrief yourself with that and give yourself a pat on the back. So for example, if you were on a hard run and, maybe it didn't go as you had planned, I do encourage you to kind of focus on saying, yep, that was a hard run and I finished it just fine. You know, you want to find some kind of positive look on that, not be so worried about, oh, you know, I didn't make it up this hill, or, you know, I didn't run fast. I don't know. I don't really get into those things, but just finishing on a positive note, and that'll set the tone for the next time you go into that training run or into that race. You can also apply the rehearsal or the imagery in another aspect. So if there's a time of day that you have more difficulty getting out for your run. So for me, I'm definitely an early morning person. And when I have to do training runs in the afternoon or evening after work, I really have a mental block on that. So I created kind of this visualization or rehearsal in my mind that says, okay, my goal is I want to get out for a run after work. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work step by step in that process and how I'm going to get from work to get home and get out the door. So I'll start by saying to myself, I think, because what I'm trying to do is my brain, my left side brain is already stressed from my work. And by adding that run into it, I'm stressing it even farther. So I want to activate that right side, my creative side, you know, the one that knows all the answers and taps into those things that I don't know I know how to do. So I'll start kind of talking to myself saying, okay, I think I'm just going to go home. When I get home, I'm put on some comfortable clothes. And those comfortable clothes just happen to be my running clothes. And I'm thinking, I'm going to have a nice snack. And that snack just happens to be your pre-workout snack. Oh, I think I'm going to check things out outside and see what's up in the neighborhood. And oh, look I'm outside. I'm going to start with a little walk. And then before you know it, I'm into my run. So the more you kind of create these scenarios in your mind and not create the stress of, oh, I have to go get out on a run, it, you know, kind of creates that anxious and more stress. I want to tap into my relaxation and forge forward with that.
Well, that's a really great point, because you hear often about just get out the door, door. But you're actually saying you start that process before get out the door and kind of shape your way into that run.
Yeah, and my goal is to kind of make it less stressful to me. So we know we have our calendars full of these miles we need to get in. It gets kind of stressful to do that. So you need to kind of find a way where it becomes kind of a natural, soothing process, like creating a habit of, I don't know, brushing your teeth after you eat. All of a sudden, that's just now what you do. But by doing this, I'm creating pathways in my brain that's it's not so bad going home, putting on some comfy clothes. It's not so bad having a little snack, and that feels pretty good after I go out for a run. So it's just kind of getting that mindset in a different way.
How about any of our audience members here, or Coach Loretta? Anybody have any advice on, or do you use meditation or mindset tricks of your own before going out on a run?
What I like to do is after a really good run, I think about how I feel after that really good run. I'm done and I just feel like so accomplished. And I think about that on those days that I have a hard time getting out, about how great I feel at the end of my runs. And that is really helpful in getting me out the door. And I also use a lot of that visualization while I'm running just a training run. I'll be thinking about what it would be like if I were at a certain point in the race. So I try to put myself in the headspace of, okay, I'm in my last 5 miles of my 100, or a certain part of my race where that might be a little bit difficult to kind of get me through. And I also sometimes trick my brain. It might only be 10 miles that day, but it might be at the end of a 70-mile week. And I think to myself, okay, I'm really at mile 64 because I haven't rested. And so I'm at mile 64. So on those days I'm starting to feel really tired, like, I can't believe I can't run 10 miles today. I should be able to run 10 miles easily. Then I start thinking about, oh, wait a second. If I think about it, this is where I'm at in the race. And I kind of pull myself back in and I can get back into a positive space.
Definitely. So there's other ways to use the mental mindset too, and aside from rehearsal and visualization, because sometimes your brain's going to fight you and you just can't see those things, right? So that's where you may want to resort to, or even use a mantra. And it's something that using a positive mantra will kind of combat those negative hormones and things that are released when you're experiencing anxiety and stress. And the words that I like to use, I don't like to use any kind of word that implies pressure on me. So I'll avoid words that include the, can't or not or anything with NOT. but I'll also avoid words that like push, because to me that's creating pressure in my mind that it's requiring me to work hard. And I want to kind of pull myself back into a mental space where I'm feeling good and things are feeling easy. So if I use terms like push or don't stop or quit, I'm hearing the negative in that. So what I'll use is things like, so if you use don't give up, I'm hearing give up, okay? So instead I would say keep going. Or if I like push, that makes me feel like it's hard. So I kind of just come back to the opposite of that, easy, nice and easy, and kind of repeat that. You just want to keep them to nice, simple words. They don't need to be a long, drawn out sentence, because it's the nice, simple words that your mind can kind of grab onto. I also have this one that I use, and sometimes as I get delirious, it really creates confusion, and I kind of forget that I'm struggling at this point. So I like to say, I will, I can, I am. And I love the rhyme part of can and am. And that's where I start to get messed up in my brain. Like, how do I say this? Did I say I am, I can, I will, or I will, I can, I am? So that kind of distracts me too. You can also make it fun. It doesn't always have to be like these woohoo, you got this thing. You know, if you have a favorite song, you can kind of use the refrain from your songs into your run if you have something like that. And you can also link your mantra into your visualization activity as you kind of grow in setting your mindset.
Tara's agreeing with you about the negative. She wrote in the chat there on the side that, her dad taught her to not use the word can't. And, I've really had to be trained with this, not to give away too many trade secrets with Michele, but she's been really great with me with working with Ornery Mule Racing about not using negative words. And Michele, that's kind of your philosophy, right? Trying to always be positive and
yeah, I have to catch myself. I am the biggest person to make that mistake. And so a lot of times I'm a better writer than talker because my mind will go to that negative spot, but then I can think through it and make it positive. But my mom, she told me, never say can't again. She goes, because, if you tell the kid you can't do, or you can't play in the dirt because you need to, keep your clothes clean, the kid will hear, I can play in the dirt. And and so she had taught me stuff like that, and that's kind of where it came from and helps keep me positive. But it's something we need to it's not it's something you have to work on every single day, even though it's a very big part of me. I have to remind myself every single day to keep doing that.
Yeah. And especially too, like I had touched on at the beginning, how when you're running, you go through all the emotions. And so when you're stuck in that not so fun part, you can always say, welcome to the party. But guess what? It's not your turn to be introduced. So go ahead and take a seat, and that there's only going to be so much time you spend in that one aspect of that emotional state, and just be patient and work on bringing forth some of those positive words, and it'll push you to that next phase of emotion. And just hopefully that you'll start to spend more time in the good parts of your run versus the bad ones. But hey, I know sometimes I'm the most popular girl at that pity party that I throw.
I like to use the words just smile, relax, and run, because I find that I run my best runs is if I just am relaxed and just in the moment, trying to put away all the other things that are happening in my life and just focusing on how great I feel during that run. And sometimes I don't always feel great, but I tell myself, I just feel so good. And I'm known to smile a lot during races. I don't really realize I'm smiling, but I think just relaxing and smiling puts you in a whole different place, and it takes a lot less muscles to smile than to frown. Yeah. So it gets me through.
Yeah, and there's actually been studies on that, Loretta, that if you're smiling when you're running, it makes it easier.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true. There's not just in running, there's a lot of studies that talk about the value of a grin, right?
Yeah.
It was fun. In the last 100, I was geez, I was probably 10, maybe 90 miles in. And, I didn't realize I was still smiling at this point. I'm crazy. And, we met a guy that was running the other way, and he's like, she's been smiling all day. And my pacer's like, yep, that's just the way she rolls, and I don't even realize it, until I go back and look at pictures or, and see, oh yeah, I was smiling all day. A little delirious.
It gets that way.
One of my parents, I don't remember if it was mom or dad, but we were in the car going somewhere, and they saw a group of runners, and the comment they made to me was, look at their faces, they all look miserable. Why would you do anything that made you look so miserable? So that has always been one of my, no matter what,
Yeah.
smile.
Yeah, the dreaded race picture, right? That we all see, right?
Yeah.
The photographer catches us at the wrong time. But I notice people are good about noticing when the photographer's around to smile and get the good shot. So yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, Robert, maybe you want to jump in. You said these are little tricks that Val's talking about are commitment devices. What's your input on that?
Yep. So I love this subject about habit formation and understanding the psychology behind habit formation. In fact, what I do in my day job as an organizational development specialist is I will train and mentor all of the employees in the area of personal development and professional development. And the book that I am teaching on right now is Atomic Habits. Val, you're shaking your head. Do you know this book?
Yeah, it's a great book.
Yes. And in the book, the author, James Clear, talks about having these commitment devices. And they're a way to make when you want to start something out, like running, for example. I love it, Val, when you were talking about how you would have these little things that you would say to yourself just to get yourself to the next step.
Exactly.
So the goal wasn't to, your next step wasn't to go from work to running.
Yes.
Your next step was and that you would tell yourself to just get yourself to, you said to put on comfortable clothes. Yep. And so our brains can handle that next small step. And that next small step is our present self. But sometimes our brains have a hard time processing or having a desire to do the future endeavor.
Yes.
But we can handle that very next step.
Yeah, especially if the future endeavor is something that's deemed kind of difficult or stressful. But if you can break it down, like you're saying, into those smaller, manageable steps, before you know it, you're going to be running 100 miles, people.
Yeah.
I see a lot of head nodding going on in the Zoom here on this conversation.
We use that same trick when we are running a long distance. Instead of thinking about, I've got 70 miles to go, I think about, the next aid station is only 2 miles away. We can do that.
Yeah, and I think that's why I really am so into the interval running. So when I run, I do a series or a method kind of that is adopted from the Jeff Galloway method, where I'll run for a certain amount of minutes, and then I'll do a recovery walk for a couple of a certain amount of seconds. And in that, by using that method, it has made running very enjoyable for me. It allows me to focus on, okay, like you're saying, Loretta, you got that 10-mile run. You've already accomplished so many miles, but you still have to get through that 10-mile run. I look at it this way. I'm just going to run for a minute and a half. That's all I got to do. And then I'm going to recover. Then I'm going to run it again. And I'll just keep doing that until you reach your final mileage for that day. But, I love that. I love being able to just break things down into the very easy steps. Because like you said, Robert, that's what our brain can handle.
Yeah, it's the way our brain works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Simple.
And I break it down into intervals, kind of more like remembering the course that I've taken, and in my head going, okay, the next thing I'm going to see is the horse farm. And, you know, when it seems like forever, I'm getting to the end of that, you know, route, then I'm going to see this road, and then I'm going to see this. And then it just kind of just all flows into place if you can kind of break it down mentally, rather than saying I have this whole amount of miles that I have to run.
Exactly. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to talk about is if you wanted to try any type of meditation when you're running, that's something else that can kind of soothe your brain and your body if you can't seem to get into that imagery, or that if that mantra is just kind of not working for you. An easy first thing to do if you want to get into meditation is kind of focus on your steps and start counting every time your left foot hits the pavement. And maybe do that. You want to kind of set a number value to that. So maybe counting to, 10, counting that left foot to 10, and then starting back over 1 and through 10 again. The other thing I like to do is kind of monitor my breathing. So that will also help as you start to kind of get fatigued and you notice you're having more of a heavy breath. If you focus on counting your inhale as 1, 2, and then exhale 1, 2, you'll find that you'll kind of control your body into more of a relaxed state instead of being all bound up and stressful. So I think those are 2 ways to start with getting meditation into your run.
Okay, so we're kind of nearing the end of our time. We got a couple of things we want to cover before the end here. I know Michele wants to tell us a little bit about some exciting things going on this weekend, and some exciting news we've had recently at Ornery Mule Racing. But before we get to her, you have one of our most famous Ornery Mule photos of all time. Okay, so I want to show that.
I love that photo. Every time I look at it, it just makes me want to cry. I tell you, just all that could not have captured anything more.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit of the story behind that photo, and what a great picture that is. You've gotten a lot of mileage out of that. We probably owe you for that. So.
I love that photo. Gosh, I mean, look
what's the story behind it?
That was last year's Hennepin. That was actually the second time I ran the Hennepin. And I think I appreciate it even more than the first time, because I have a tendency to just kind of like, I don't know, jump into big things. Like my first race was a marathon. I went from doing no running to, okay, I think I'm going to sign up for a marathon. So when I did my first Hennepin, I learned a lot. And then, of course, I learned a lot the second time as well. But that, to me, is just not only the finish of it, but knowing all that went into finishing. So the finish is great. But what I'm thinking right there is I really made it through all of that, all that hard work, all those early mornings, all those late afternoon runs, the weekends where I would spend over 6 hours running Saturday and Sunday, my family support, my husband crewing me the last 13 miles of the race. And, I love that picture.
Yeah,
and then it's Michele too.
Yeah, Michelle's got her side of this story, her famous finish line hugs and all that. Okay, Michele, we're going to close out here with Val in just a moment, but how about you update us a little bit with what's going on the rest of this weekend and this week, and book club, etc., Earth Day stuff, and our exciting news this week.
Yeah, well, I'll let Loretta talk about book club. That's been really great, but I'll let Loretta talk about that. I guess our big news, I didn't know that Steve was going to ask me this, but I'm guessing he's talking about our big news.
I am the assistant.
He's talking about our big news of Midwest States 100. So that's a race that has been in the works for a while. We were actually supposed to be on the course last weekend, kind of working on plans for it, but with COVID-19, we weren't able to go up there. But it'll give us a lot of time this summer to work on it. And we could see that a lot of people in the running community needed goals. They're all trained. It'd be nice to have an actual race to be running for. And so at first I wasn't really into the virtual race idea, but because I could see people, wanted to test their limits, we worked on coming up with an idea for something that we felt like was a really good value virtual race. And we came up with the Midwest States 100. So we're going to have behind the scenes behind the scenes footage of the course. So there's a secret door up there on the top of the thing that when you sign up for it, you get a password to go to that, and it'll kind of be like reality TV of what's going on in planning of this race. We have a guy coming out and doing drone shots of the course. So it'll give you a chance to learn and be prepared for the race. And then the challenge is 100 miles or 100K in 10 days or less. So, choose your race. One exciting thing that happened today is Casey Lichtig. Everybody probably knows her. She signed up for it. And Loretta is signed up for it, and Coach Karen, a bunch of people. But I'm really excited. It's going to be really special. We'll have awards. Our awards are, I'm all about a highly competitive runner, but I'm also about somebody just enjoying it and getting out there. So we'll have awards that take care of everybody, and we'll be watching social media for pictures, and that's where we're going to be choosing awards. So that's kind of a lot. That's a lot. I have more I could say about it because we're really excited, but I've already spent enough time. I want Loretta to talk about book club, which has been really great.
Great. Thanks, Michele. Coach Loretta, book club.
All right. So we are hosting book clubs every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. Central Time. Right now we're reviewing the book See You at the Terminus by Brian Frayne. And him and his wife, Annie, are featured in the book. He wrote the book about her, and they attended last week, and a couple of the crew members were also there. So it was really cool because we were able to get a perspective from everybody. So it's not too late to join. It's not like a intense study class or anything. We just spend a lot of time just chatting and kind of relating the book to our personal experiences. So we really feel like after we're done, we've been on an actual virtual long run together. We've gotten to know each other, and our group has really grown. So it's really exciting. We also have a YouTube that we did with Dean Canarzis came and joined us. So you can check that out, and you can see his chat, and it was really cool to have him there too. So hope to have you guys join. There is a post in the event page of the Ornery Mule Kindness page that has the link to Zoom.
Great. Thanks, Coach Loretta. And also this weekend, we're finishing up our virtual Earth Day race, and we're going to have an award ceremony Monday night. So you guys can tune in for a short Zoom on that. And we're having a lot of fun with that event, just trying to make sure people are staying active with all the canceled events. And boy, we really appreciate everybody dropping in. And these Zoom meets are just completely valuable during this time when we can't be together. And they are real uplifting, and we appreciate everybody contributing and being part of this through this tough time, and hope everybody's staying well. Okay, Coach Val, any final parting thoughts here as we head out for the rest of our weekend?
Oh, gosh, just thank you for spending your hour with me today. And the topics we talked about, we just touched the surface. There's so much more to dig into those fun things. But again, just thank you. Just so happy to share this time with you and talk running, because my family gets a little tired of my experiments. So.
Okay, well, here we go on our famous Zoom goodbye, everybody. All right, so we'll cue up a little music. And thanks, Coach Val, for being part of this, and we'll see you next weekend.
When I wake up, yeah, I know it's gonna be the longest day of my whole life. When I line up, yeah, I know definitely there's no chance without my crew led by my wife. If I'm drinking, then I may just make it through, 'cause my tailwind gives me everything I need. And if I lube up and I cover all the spots, I may survive without a major chafe or bleed.